here at UW, I ended up finding a position as an assistant faculty member. But in this particular position, working in neuroethics, I had been working in bioethics for a long time, and then the Center for Neurotechnology was formed with NSF funding, and they came to me and said, we're looking for somebody who works on values issues and ethics in this area generally, and would you be interested in partnering with us? So it was nice to be reached out to in that way. So talking with the neuroscientists and neural engineers who work in this center that I work in sort of highlights a lot of really fascinating new technologies that are being developed that I think hold a lot of promise for the ways in which we act and engage in the world, but because they're technologies that operate directly on our brains, which is an organ very central to our sense of identity, they raise a lot of really fascinating questions about privacy and agency and identity and that kind of thing. So knowing the people who are working on the devices and understanding a bit more about their scientific basis then puts me in a good position to think through the values issues. I think I was just really interested. I was taking philosophy classes while I was in labs, and I was so taken with the questions about identity over time and ethics questions that I would sit in the lab in the evenings and engage my fellow research assistants in philosophical conversations as we were running subjects or, and waiting around or working on analyses. And after I got out of undergrad, I just thought, what do I really want to focus on? Am I going to get more and more narrow in one particular paradigm, or do I want to open it up and think more broadly about some of these really big philosophical questions? I'll say in neuroethics, maybe more generally, I think there are some policy gaps just because we're advancing so rapidly in terms of the neurotechnologies we can create and test and maybe use therapeutically, although that's a bigger hurdle. But we haven't fully figured out exactly what it means to protect the privacy of our neural data. I think we think of it right now as just another kind of data, but it's a massive data set. It's not clear that it's so easily anonymized in ways that matter to us, I think. And when combined with a lot of other data that we leave behind us, so just, data trails from our regular lives and our clicks on computers and the use of iPhones and that kind of thing, I think we can give people a pretty good picture of what's going on inside of our heads in ways that make some of us uncomfortable. And I guess I think we're going to have to figure out how we talk about that. Some people in our circles have talked about whether or not we want to identify something like neuro rights that are about mental integrity and protection of neural privacy as a way to solidify the importance of this internal private space. So that would be one kind of issue that I think we need to take on. I also think we're going to have to think much harder about enhancement, because we're very quickly moving from mainly targeting these neural technologies to clinical environments where people have needs that they may want to have met, to thinking of them as consumer technologies that will just gather a lot more data, for one thing, and be used much more pervasively. And then, again, I think we want to think about privacy and controls over the system before we have it fully implemented. Just in the way that we think maybe we could have done some things differently with cell phones or with the internet, right, around controls there and protections for users.